People who have been in a coma, what shocked you the most when you woke up?
In the 90s, my great-grandfather had a stroke. He was in a coma for 3 weeks, and when he woke up, he had forgotten how to speak English. He could only speak Choctaw. He had learned it as a child because his family lived near a Choctaw reservation, and he played with many local kids. At that time, he was fluent in the language, but had forgotten it over his lifetime, and by then he couldn't recall a single word. This went on for about 10 days, and then one night he woke up from a nightmare and suddenly could only speak English again without remembering a single word of Choctaw. He also could repeat word for word every conversation that happened in the room while he was in a coma.
Whoa. The brain is an amazing thing.
If I'm not mistaken, there's a guy who woke up from a coma speaking Cantonese and ended up dating a Chinese woman. I was in a coma for 4 days. When I woke up, everyone around me was talking about some baby of mine. I had lost my long-term memory and didn't even remember that I had been pregnant. My son was in the NICU of a children's hospital. I had delivered him via C-section at 29 weeks. This was all due to Crohn's disease, which I only learned I had after I woke up. During the pregnancy, my colon ruptured. My husband said I talked like a little child right after waking up. I felt very tired, and for the next few days, I was still a little agitated. I remembered one conversation my mom had with a nurse while I was out. After a few days, my long-term memory returned, and I recalled everything up to my second surgery. My son was only born during my third surgery. Basically, my baby boy was what shocked me.
Is your son okay?
Yes, he weighed 1.47 kilograms at birth, and now he's 18 years old and 195 centimeters tall. Thanks for asking.
I was in a coma for 9 days. When I woke up, I was still on a ventilator. When they disconnected me, my body didn't remember how to breathe on its own. I literally had to relearn how to breathe. It took me a few days. I had no natural sense of how long or how deep to inhale, how long to hold it, or how long to exhale. I had to concentrate on every breath. It was terrifying. For those who wondered how I slept, I didn't for the first couple of days. If I dozed off, my oxygen monitor would beep and wake me up, and then a nurse would yell across the ICU for me to keep breathing. I couldn't talk because of the tubes in my nose and throat, but I remember one time waking up exhausted to that damn beeping. I tried focusing again on breathing, but I was pissed. The nurse ran over and shouted at me to breathe. I looked at her and mouthed with no voice, "Yes, I am." She must have read my lips and felt annoyed because she just threw up her hands and said, "All right, fine, good job," and walked away. Anyway, I've never really had a chance to share that before. My ability to breathe normally came back about a month later. My health is fine now, no lasting impact.
Great, now I'm suddenly aware of every single breath I take.
Don't forget to blink.
Bastard, you just ruined the next 30 minutes of my life.
My mom was in a medically induced coma for 3 months. When she woke up, she thought the hospital was trying to kill her. She tried to get out of bed and fell to the floor because she couldn't walk. She was terrified that her legs had lost all their shape. She had to relearn how to control every single muscle. She couldn't speak properly, and she forgot how to write. When she relearned, her handwriting was completely different. She says she hated how perfect her hands looked, nails and cuticles flawless from lack of use. I remember brushing her hair and almost all of it fell out. She nearly died every single day she was in that coma. It was from sepsis after diverticulitis and a failed surgery. Most of her hair grew back and she can walk again, but her brain is damaged. She always looks drunk, dizzy all the time. But it's been 5 years and her recovery is basically a miracle.
A close family friend was in a coma for 6 months. When he woke up, he was shocked at how old his wife looked. In reality, he had lost the last 15 years of his memory. He remembered having 2 children, but in his mind, they were still babies. And he didn't even know about his 3rd child. The memories never came back. He went from a world without cell phones to a world of smartphones and laptops. Everything was new to him. It was like he was stuck in the early 90s, but actually in the 2000s. He had to learn so much. But the hardest part for him was realizing he had missed his kids growing up.
That's the saddest story I've read in this thread. My God, that's haunting. He must have felt like he was being punished for something awful. My wife was in a medically induced coma for 2 weeks. When she woke up, she had false memories. All of them were based on conversations she had overheard in her room. For example, she thought we had flown to Washington for treatment. In reality, my dad had been returning from a business trip to Washington. Somehow she picked it up while under, and her brain twisted it into a story that she had gone there. Even after we explained the truth, it took days before she could accept reality. My brother-in-law had a brain tumor, so he was out cold for a while when he was first admitted to the hospital. The nurses were Asian, so when he came to, he apologized to everyone for making them come all the way to Japan to see him. My stepdad was in a coma for about 3 weeks. When he woke up, he couldn't find his dentures. We had forgotten where they were and searched for a week. One time he collapsed near the hospital sink out of nowhere. They resuscitated him, but couldn't figure out why he was barely breathing. Then the doctor sat us down and showed us an x-ray. The dentures were inside him. They had forgotten to remove them when inserting the tubes, blocking his airway or something like that. So yeah, we found them. Since this got attention, I decided to post the one photo I have on my old phone. Hope the link still works.
I was in a coma for 4 days from bacterial meningitis. When I woke up, I was completely deaf. I had to communicate with doctors and my parents through pen and paper. Eventually, some hearing returned in my left ear, but my right ear is still 100% deaf.
Woo! Another bacterial meningitis survivor. I'm so glad you made it. Trust me, it could have been so much worse.
Thanks, man. I'm glad too. Doctors only gave me a 10% chance of survival. Glad you pulled through as well. Edited. Spoke with my mom. She said they actually gave me a 5% chance of living. Holy shit.
My wife was in a medically induced coma for 4 days. She had a reaction to contrast dye, and her heart stopped for 20 minutes. For almost 3 months after, she would, quote, talk to her long-dead parents. She spoke about them as if they were in the next room. She'd say her daughter or brother had just called her when they hadn't. She constantly believed her parents were still alive. It drove me crazy having to gently correct her over and over every day. She spun incredible stories about what relatives, friends, neighbors were up to. It was like creative fiction. After 3 months, she started coming back to reality. The confabulation stopped. She could remember recent things, but her older memories were gone. I don't know what that feels like, but it must be awful. Sometimes she cries over the lost memories, but overall, she's doing well.
My dad also had a reaction to contrast dye after a head injury. He had seizures, almost like his brain rebooted. At first, he could only say, "How's the girl?" My sister had just been born. He couldn't hold or grab things. He spent months in therapy. Eventually, his personality shifted. He became more irritable, less patient, very sleepy. Now he's mostly fine, aside from some neck pain.
About 20 years ago, my cousin had a severe head injury from a fall. He was about 20 at the time. He was in a coma for almost 4 weeks. When he woke up, he quickly discovered he had an eidetic memory. He could recite any conversation word for word, including the date and time it happened. He could memorize images in seconds. He still has this ability. It's damn annoying. Every time he reminds me of something I said that I don't even remember, I tell him we should hit him on the head again.
Judging by what happened last time, he'll probably just gain another superpower. Better not risk it.
Nah, he's just glitching. You just need to turn him off and back on again. DKA put me in a coma. I have hazy memories of being sick. My whole sense of time is just mush. Even years later, I can't piece the timeline together. I have flashes of memories of doctors coming in and out. When I came out of the coma, I still wasn't all there. On insulin IV, they check your sugar every hour. I could never sleep but felt like I was constantly half asleep. Hard to describe. Time was just mushy, stretched out.
I was in a coma for almost 6 weeks. When I woke up, I had to relearn everything. Most of my speech was intact, but my motor skills were terrible. I had to relearn how to wipe my ass, how to climb stairs. It took about 3 weeks. I had also lost a ton of weight. I'm 190 centimeters tall and I weighed only 65 kilograms.
6 weeks? Jesus Christ.
Severe head trauma. They did an MRI with contrast dye, and I had a massive allergic reaction. I died on the table within minutes.
My nephew, 14 years old, was in a medically induced coma for over 3 months. During that time, he lost about 30% of his body weight because his muscles atrophied. His first comment when he saw himself was, "Did you guys forget to feed me?" That was heartbreaking because his family had been crying at his bedside the entire time.
I was in a coma for 3 weeks, from September 2nd to 26th, 2001. I had been driving through Pennsylvania to Ithaca for a meeting with the head of marketing at the company I worked for. I don't remember much, just what medics and hospital staff told me later. Basically, a drunk driver tried to cut across 3 lanes to make the same exit I was on. I was in his blind spot at the wrong time, and he smashed me off the road. Most people can guess what happened on September 11th, 2001. It felt like I teleported or time traveled. One moment, I was driving. The next, I was bloodied and broken on a hospital bed with braces on my neck and back, burns from airbags, an IV in my arm, and other injuries. When I woke up, the world was completely different. Before I went under, the economy was stable. Everything in the world was fine. When I woke up, chaos. That's all it was.
Thanks for watching the video. You can comment your story if you were in coma and what shocked you the most.